So I'm riffing a little bit. I came here to this super duper creepy place that's only like 15 minutes from my house that I never knew existed to take some cool iPhone photos and show you guys my top 6 tricks using the stock iPhone app. Let's get going and look at some cool iPhone tips and tricks. Tip number 1. Shoot in most compatible mode. Now, honestly, this one's really up to you guys. If you have an iPhone with a smaller amount of memory, you might want to use a high efficiency mode, but I recommend shooting with the most compatible mode. To do that, go into your settings app, camera, then formats, and switch it from high efficiency to most compatible. Basically what you're doing is you're switching it from shooting in the HEIF mode to your standard JPEG mode. Now, I don't really have any proof of this, but I feel like you get a slightly higher quality when you shoot JPEG. What you definitely get for sure is a more compatible file that you can bring into Photoshop or your image editing program of choice. I found the high efficiency file formats to be really difficult to work with. Number 2, turn on the grid. Again, go to your settings app, then camera, and then flip the switch that says grid on. You get a little 9-quadrant grid, and you may be wondering why we want to have this grid on. The first thing you can do with the grid is you can simply line up your subject on one of the crosshairs of the grid, so either of those 4 points in the middle, and you're instantly going to find a more interesting composition. This could be a person, or a building, or a tree, or your cat that keeps bothering you while you're shooting your YouTube videos. You're just going to find that that's a natural space that we like to see things when we do photographic composition. Or you could completely break the rule and not use the grid at all, but I think that if you use the grid, you're gonna find that you like your photos a lot more. Tip number 3, using live mode for burst photography. We're gonna use the live mode feature of the iPhone in order to shoot a whole bunch of photos in a row and then pick the photo that we want out of those photos. It's a pretty cool trick. But first, before we get into this technique, we're gonna switch one more thing up in our settings. So go to settings, camera, preserve settings, and make sure to flip the live photo switch to on. Flipping this switch lets us control when we have live photo on or off. Otherwise, every time you open the camera app, it's always gonna be on, and that can be really annoying. Let's say you're taking a lot of photos in an environment where there's a lot of action. Things are constantly moving. Your kid's game, a sporting event, your pet who's moving around and jumping and playing and having fun. It's really hard to take a photo and get that perfect shot. It's either gonna be blurry or usually you're about a half second behind. The problem is there's just so much movement. So watch this. Turn on live mode and just start taking photos of moving subjects like you normally would. So after you've taken a bunch of photos and you're pretty happy, go into your gallery, open up those photos. It's really easy to tell which photos are live photos because in the top corner it says live photo. Take the photo and hit the edit button in the top right corner. Now hit that target icon. It's the same live photo icon down in the bottom left corner, close to the cancel button. Now, kind of like when you're editing video on an iPhone, you can scroll through all the live photos that were taken and you can say, make key photo. And boom, there you go. You've now just found that perfect action frame. Tip number 4. Auto exposure and auto focus manual adjustments. Unfortunately, the stock iPhone app is not the best at doing manual features. You're really gonna need a third-party app for that. However, if you look under the hood, there are a few manual things that you can do. You may know that if you tap anywhere in your image plane before taking a photo, you instantly grab focus and exposure on that area. It's very quick, it's very easy. However, the minute you start moving your phone around, you're gonna break it. You're gonna lose your exposure and you're gonna lose your focus, and the phone's just gonna start thinking again and doing its thing. Here's something you may not know. If you tap and hold down in an area until you see the words AE/AF lock up top, you have now locked in your auto exposure and your auto focus, meaning that you can move the camera around and start taking photos and the focus and the exposure aren't gonna change. Let's say you wanna have a lot of consistency from photo to photo because you wanna stitch together a panorama in Photoshop or something like that later on. Another cool thing you can do is if you did tap on an area to grab focus and exposure, you can slide your finger up and down to the right of the focus and exposure square to adjust your exposure manually. I often like to lower my exposure just a little bit to keep in some sky and push some things down into the darks. Tip number 5. This is how to record video and stills at the same time. Yeah, I found this feature completely by mistake, but it's super cool. The way it works now is that if you click and hold down on the shutter release or take photo button, whatever you want to call it, the big white circle at the bottom, it's going to start recording video. It's going to stop taking photos and start recording video. Apple has designed this to be a quick and easy way to just get into shooting video without having to switch a bunch of settings around. But here's something else that I learned that's kind of like even cooler. If you click and hold down and start recording video, and then slide your thumb all the way to the right, you're gonna see that you drag a white circle, like a solid white circle, into a hollow white circle, and if you let go, you're now still recording video. You've got to stop in the middle so you can hit the square to stop the video, but you're currently recording video, and you can start tapping that button over to the right to also take photos. It's crazy. I looked in my gallery and there it was. I literally had video and photos that I was taking simultaneously. This is another huge thing for street photography, or if you're, again, at some kind of sporting event or something with a lot of action and you want to record video for your memories or for your vlog or whatever, but you also want to grab a couple of high quality stills for your Instagram or for your thumbnail or something like that. And last, but most certainly not least, would be tip number 6. Tip number 6 is how to do burst mode again. They have changed this a little bit in the latest app. If you hold down on the shutter release button, you're gonna start recording video. It used to be if you held down on that button, you created what's called a burst mode photo. Similar to what I taught you guys how to do with live mode, burst mode was kind of the more robust version of that. If you held down, you would see a number counter just pile up. You're just taking a bunch of photos in a row, and then you could go into your gallery, you could edit this one photo, but it would pop open. It's kind of like opening up a photo book. You would just see a bunch of photos and you could select the ones that you wanted to keep and ditch all the other ones. Burst mode is still there. They've just made it a little bit trickier to get to. All you have to do now is gently push down on the shutter release and slide to the left and hold down. You'll see a counter start dialing up, and now you're doing burst mode photos. The bottom line is burst mode is still there, and it is a high-powered feature. I recommend you check it out and use it. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this video. I am in the parking lot of that creepy ass place, so I am gonna get out of here before I get caught. If you like this video or found something valuable in this video, feel free to give me a like or subscribe to my channel. That's it for me for now. I guess I will catch you guys later. Let's get out of here.